right, Cory. I don't know if you can see through all that snow, but let's look for that red lantern.
I could be anything. Hi. I'm supposed to achieve great things. Unfortunately for me, you are also your mistakes. And turns out they tend to remember those more. Hi, I'm a disappointment.
Cory, you and I found some dogs and went mushing across the snow in search of the red lantern. We have a unique title on the Switch, one I don't think I ever anticipated ever playing in my existence. Cory, how's your time as a dog musher?
Well, you know what? This was kind of a really interesting game. You kind of tossed this one over to me, and whenever we get a Switch game, I'm kind of always excited to see what it's going to be about, because Switch games always kind of tend to be just a little bit off the beaten path. And we've kind of got this Oregon Trail style dog sledding game. And it's really cool, actually. It's based around this character. We don't get a name, but the Musher, we'll call her. She leaves her life in search of, I don't know, something new, I guess. She feels like
freedom, right?
Yeah, some sort of freedom. Yeah. And kind of the base of the story is you and your dog, Chomper, head off. And the idea is you kind of draft yourself a team of dogs for a dog sled, and you're headed to this cabin that your friend has now kind of bestowed upon you with all this new dog sled gear, and you're off to this cabin with the red lantern to get ready for this big dog sled race, the Iditarod in Alaska. And it was a really cool scene. I know we're gonna say it, but the art style is definitely something I loved right away. This game looked awesome, especially when you played it on the big screen. I did play this handheld at first, and I was like, you know what? Dock the Switch, grab the controller, and sat down. I was like, this is the one I wanted to play on the big screen.
And it looked good?
Yeah, I thought it looked great.
That's awesome, because I completely played this thing in handheld. Dude, it was like just curl up on the couch kind of thing, and I was just there immersed in the Switch playing as the musher. Like, dude, it was cool. I like the fact that you could actually go and pick your own dogs. They were just handed to you, so you kind of got this touch of the personality and things that maybe their previous owners kind of warned you about, like one of them getting sprayed by a skunk all the time. So that was definitely a thing. It's got a unique taste to the game in the fact that it's a bit of a survival game as well. So as you head out across the Alaskan plains of being in a snowstorm, kind of, it's weird because you don't actually control the sled.
No.
Right? The sled just goes, and then you're prompt with scenarios whether or not you want to turn left or turn right, gee, whichever way, the terminology and stuff is. Yeah. And then from there, your dog will pick up on certain aspects on instincts, and whether or not you kind of want to trust in your dog, or you can just let it go and you can keep going. But you always need this food supply for yourself, for the dogs. If you get bit by like a wolf, that I did a lot. So you run into certain scenarios, but you don't actually, and it's traditional survival game, you go out, you traverse the world, you explore, and you gather your resources, come back, craft, whatever you got to do, right? Here, it's you want to go from point A to point B, and it just takes you through there with kind of off the beaten trail sort of scenarios. Gotta shout out to Ashley Birch. Dude, she crushed it. Oh. And I didn't even realize she was the voice actress until I was probably halfway through the game, and I went, dude, I know this
Recognize
voice.
that voice.
There it is. And sure enough, once I completed it, I saw the credits roll, and sure enough, there's Ashley's name. It was really cool, a unique survival game, but not perfect, Cory. Not perfect in some details. Like, okay, so when you leave your camp, right, and you grab your dogs and you're about to set out, well, some of your dogs are laying on the snow. Well, then some of them they start to take off, and then they're dragging, and then they flip over. And, and then for me, the game crashed 3 times. I was right at the end of the game, and you're like, well, you come up upon your destination, you're like, oh, this is it. And then all of a sudden, my dogs went into the ground. All you could see was the peak of their ears. and then I soar off into the universe like I was Santa Claus going across the buildings, and I was just like, and then I went back to the ground, and my dogs were running full speed, but we weren't moving, and it just crashed.
Oh no!
And I was like, oh, and I was right there, dude. The game was over. Like I was so there. But you know, you play that. I guess, man, I redid it. It started me back in my camp, and I was able to complete it. I was glad I was able to complete it because there are certain games of recent that we've actually tried to finish. It can't because the end of it just didn't finish. It's just broken, right? So there's a couple little hiccups moving into the game. So if you kind of know that going in, I think that's the biggest downfall. The game itself, though, I felt was really solid.
Yeah, you know what? This is a $24.99 game. It's a $25 game. And you know what? There's a good enough story here, especially with how good the voice acting is. It gets you really immersed into, you know, just being inside the main character's head, right? Just kind of thinking all the same thoughts and kind of feeling the emotions as you go through. I definitely ran into a few graphical glitches myself, and mainly around the camp. Every time I wanted to stop to camp, it kind of takes you into this quick little cutscene, and your camp appears, and it says, "Oh, you know, let's camp here." And then I press yes, and then the screen fades to black again, and then opens up to the exact same scene I was just looking at, and then the character goes, "Let's camp here," and then I can continue on in the camp. And it's, you know, whatever. It's not a big deal, but again, it's something you kind of run into. And then when I wanted to set the trap for the first time, it cuts to a black screen and just does text overlay. With the character talking with the dog when you set the trap. It was part of the game, but the problem was I actually never got pulled out of that black screen. So I know I was able to click around and you know, pet the dog and do other things, but the screen was totally black. So what I ended up doing was kind of dashboarding, going home on the Switch and then back in, and I managed to kind of kick it out of whatever it was in, and I got to keep going because I was freaking out. I was like, I've come too far. I can't have this crash on me. And I actually didn't realize you were having those game crashes, so I didn't luckily have any of those major ones, but I definitely had some kind of small hiccups along the way. And for $25, it's tough to justify it a little bit when you have these issues kind of going through.
No, absolutely. And I also wish they gave Ashley a couple more lines. A lot of repeated text and dialogue as you die, and then you go back, you start over. So every time you do a run, you run in the same dialogue, right? It's repeated and repetitive after a while. When you play it 5 times because you died that many times, dude, after you hear the same, right? You know what I mean? Yeah. So you start to hear the same thing over and over. But then when I'm at my camp, okay, I'm ready to cook food. And then you click into your fire, and then, okay, I'm ready to cook food. I'm like, you just said that. So, you know, there's a couple things I wish they would have tweaked a little bit more polish overall, I think is really what's needed. And I wonder if part of it is the fact that it's on the Switch. But when you say that, though, you gotta go, well, looks Zelda.
Yeah, again, right?
Breath of the Wild is beautiful. It runs smooth. It is slick. So you can't really fault it for the Switch, especially because it's not. I don't feel like it's really pushing the Switch that much either.
No.
You know what I mean? I think it should be running perfectly well and smooth on the Switch. It's just a lack of polish overall in the game. I think the fundamentals of the game and the concept and the story is great. Ashley is fantastic. But besides that, there's just a couple little things that need to be tweaked, man, to make this that full purchase of a $25 game that we're all kind of looking for.
Yeah, for sure.
Do something. Just stay back, Barkley. It's okay. We've got this.
Cory, you and I both found the Red Lantern. What do you score in this one, buddy?
Well, you know what? I think I'm going to take the graphical hiccups aside. I didn't have any game crashes like you, but definitely hearing about that is a little concerning. But overall, I had a blast playing this game. My biggest complaint is that I thought it was a little too short. I got so close to actually completing it originally, and I ended up dying like 30 seconds to the end, and then I died 5 more times after that, and then finally got it and realized how close I was. So that was maddening, but I had a blast playing this game. The audio was amazing. It got you so kind of immersed in the environment, you know, on the dog sled. The dogs have their own personalities. Everything about this game was a blast. I had a ton of fun. But because there was some issues, I gotta take a couple points off. I gotta give this one a 7.
Yeah, actually, because I thought it was really going to break my game, and it broke a lot of the experience when I was so close to the end. And the big crashes, like they weren't minor crashes, they were big crashes that took me right out and it just froze the game on me, right? And it was 3 times, and that's a little concerning. And it's hard to say, you know what, you should definitely buy this game. Personally, I think you should buy the game. I think the game is fantastic. I think the voice acting is great. The art style, Cory, like once again, it was right up our style of what we like to play. So, you know, the overall experience is good, but the crashes are a bit of a concern. So if you know that going in on the Switch, then be warned about that. I got to give it a 6.5.
Great visuals and a solid voiceover really drive the experience, but there's some crashing and graphical issues in this one that are hard to avoid.
What is that? Oh, hello. Okay, on my call, you're gonna try to get yourselves a meal. Hold. Okay, go! Sheesh, y'all are great at catching these birds. Maybe we shouldn't try to have chickens at our new home. I don't eat eggs. I think I like these ptarmigans.